Hey guys, how y'all doing? My name is Kieran, and this is Foxoff RPG. So today I'm really excited about this one. This is basically a preview of an upcoming Kickstarter. We're going to be looking over what this book is. I'm going to show off the Kickstarter page, and then we'll go through some of the contents of this. Now I just want to make it clear that this book was sent to me by the creators. As you can see, it was created by Castle Clark. I believe these are a couple. They sent a message out on Shadowdark's Discord asking if there's any creators there who want to have a look at their upcoming Kickstarter. I asked, they generously gave me access to PDFs and they sent me a physical copy. I just want to make it clear that this is not going to be 100% of what you're getting if you back it. There's a lot of errors in here. They're after correcting, they're changing some of the balancing stuff, as well as adding, I think it's 30 to 40 more pages. So this is looking to be, if not more, so this is looking to be around 200 pages. This currently is 148, I believe, pages, so it's quite large already, but they're adding more. They're also going to be adding an adventure, as well as, I believe there's an add-on for like a journal, and some STLs as well, so that's pretty cool. I just want to make it clear that this is not the final product. They're going to be adding more art and more overall content, as well as like fixing and balancing stuff. So let's have a look at this. Actually, you know what we do? I'll show you the Kickstarter page, and then we can go through this in more detail. So let's have a look at the Kickstarter page. So this is the actual Kickstarter page, which I just said a second ago. We'll have a quick look down through. As you can see, there's some cool art of some of the ancestries you're going to play. There's 12 new ancestries. We'll go through some of them when we look at the book again. It's not just about dungeon delve as well. It talks about the world in the book. 4 new classes. Like it has here the warrior. Now the warrior in this is not the same as the warrior in Shadowdark core rulebook. And the scout is kind of like a mix between a ranger and a thief type character. But we'll go over some of that now in a few minutes. And again, 30 new spells, 50 plus new magic items, 30 plus new monsters. And you'll see this in the book when we get into it. It all sort of goes with the theme and the feel of the world they've created. And I love this. Some awesome STLs able to print. These are obviously work in progress. But I'm a 3D printer guy, 3D printing guy. I have a 3D printer. I've had it for like 5 years. I love it. And you're also going to get an adventure, and you can get a journal as well to go along with this. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, we'll get back into the actual video now. And yeah, so like I said, this will be linked in the description and pinned comment along with the creators' socials. So let's get back to the actual book. So that was a look at the Kickstarter page. So now we're going to have a look at the actual book. Now, the whole idea behind this world is, long ago, we're not sure when, but there was some sort of magical calamity or an effect that causes a bunch of mutations in different animals. This caused some of the creatures become more monstrous and feral and dangerous. It also allowed some of the other animals to become more highly intelligent, and it was selective. Example, you're going to have owls and badgers who have human-like intelligence. There is no humans in this world. Anyone that does have human-like intelligence, they are all some sort of animal. You also find other, like I said, badgers and owls and stuff like that, which are normal, as we would see it. So basically in this, there's going to be 3 main regions. You have the White Peaks, which is going to be a mountainous area, which then leads into a dense forest. It's going to be generally more cold, more rough. You're going to have your dragons and other mysterious sort of creatures that you associate with the mountains there. Then you have the Eredador, which is the central region. It's going to make up the majority of the land. It is going to have a lot of the dungeons and crypts. You're going to have the different villages and farmsteads and towns and cities across the place. It also has like swamps, more vibrant forests with lots of different stuff in there. Then you have Everlon, which is going to be leading towards the ocean. So you have some hills, and you have area that leads towards the ocean and bigger lakes, which is going to lead to different possible outcomes where maybe you could travel outwards into the land and discover the new world. if you wish, you can see here, here's the editor. This is the mainland sort of area. You then have the White Peak Mountains over here, which is like the first one we talked about, and here Everlong, which is going to be more hills and leading towards the oceans. It has like 12 new ancestries, as we said already. Look at the Kickstarter page. So we'll just read one or two of them here. So we read the mouse. So its mouses are small, quick-witted creatures known for agility and resourcefulness. Mice are often underestimated due to their size, but possess sharp minds and nimble bodies. So you have nimble. You have advantage on checks to avoid traps and on saving throws against effects that would restrain you. So basically, any trap or anything that would cause you to be bound. And quick study. So at level 1 you gained a single additional talent. It's kind of like the humans in normal Shadowdark. Read the badger here. A study and determined folk who value honor and courage. Badgers are formidable and in battle, steadfast in their convictions. They have powerful claws. You can burrow up to 5 feet as your move, and you gain +1 to attack and melee rolls with melee attacks. And they also have great strength. You have advantage on all strength-based checks. Now there's 12 of these. I'm not going to read them all, but read maybe one more. So we have owl folk. Silent nocturnal watchers who glide through moonlit forests with uncanny grace. Their keen eyes miss little in the shadows. They have night vision. Excuse me. So they have night vision. You have advantage on sight-based checks in low light conditions. Clear mind. You have a +1 bonus to all spellcasting checks. Again, there's 12 of these, so there's quite a good bit. Again, they're going to be everything in this world is going to be split up into like fur folk, feather folk, which is pretty cool, and the warriors. So again, this is going to be a different type of warrior than you would get in the core Shadowdark, and there's 4 classes here. And they go over quite a good bit of stuff here. So warriors are brave and steadfast, protectors of the dark forest realm. They might be stalwart guardians clad in armor, agile duelists wielding knives, blades, or keen-eyed archers whose skill with the bow is unmatched. Throughout strength, skill, and determination, warriors forge their legend on the battlefield. So they have proficiency with all weapon, proficiency with all armor and shields. They have 1d8, and if you have they have endurance if you have a positive constitution. Now there is a lot of mistakes. There is a couple of mistakes in this as well, just so you know. I was talking to one of the guys who was working on this, and they said he caught around a dozen or two different errors, and also they've added more content. So if you have a positive constitution modifier added to your gear slot, and you to carry more equipment without being encumbered. So they have a weapon mastery. So choose one type of weapon, such as longsword, spears, or bows. You get a +1 bonus to use that in damage and attack rolls. Your chosen ability weapon will give you half your level rounded down to these rolls, affecting your growing in mastery. So basically, the more you level up, the better you're going to be at everything as well. You also are brave. You have advantage on saving throws versus fear, both magical and otherwise. It talks about the role in the world of the dark forest. So warriors are essential to the safety and prosperity of communities throughout the dark forest. They serve as militia members, defending abbeys like Whitestone Abbey, protectors of trade routes, leading into cities such as Light End, and roaming adventurers combating threats like minions of Rancor, Dreadbeard, and their martial skills. So basically, your warriors make up the majority of the world combatants, as you would probably expect anyway. And it talks about like here the talent trees here. So you roll 2d6 like you do in Shadowdark normally, and expanded mastery. You gain additional specialization with a weapon, reflecting your broadness of combat expertise. So say if you picked a long sword, maybe you want a spear or a bow this time. 3d6 sharpened skills, gain a +1 to all melee or range attacks rolls, shadowing your improved combat precision. 7 to 9 sharpen your skills, Increase your increase your strength, dexterity, your constitution by 2, bolstering your physical capabilities. 10 to 11 armor proficiency. Armor proficiency. That was silly of me. Don't know how I did that. Choose one kind of armor, be it light, medium, or heavy. You gain a +1 to AC while you're wearing it. And 12, versatile grow. Gain a new talent or distribute 2 points among any of your ability scores you see fit. Background: you are a seasoned fighter, a seasoned soldier from Lunker Forest, from Avalon, or perhaps a pirate hunter from Light's End. Now, it does talk about, in parts of this, about, right here actually, think about the world of Dark Forest. It does go into more detail, and I know they're expanding some things as well, but you want to think about your race, your ancestry, then you're choosing your warrior, and then what kind of warrior would you be? Are you going to be more of a religious warrior? Are you defender of a city or a town, maybe? A guard? An actual soldier? So I kind of encourage you to play into their ancestry with the warrior class and into the lore of the world, which is pretty cool. Monks, they're going to be, again, you're going to be a monk. They're going to be spiritual guardians of the Dark Forest, the devoted followers who channel in divine power of distant gods to aid innocent in combat against evil. So the kind of weapons they're going to be able to take would be clubs, crossbows, daggers, maces, and quarterstaffs. Armor: proficient with leather armor, chainmail, and shields. 1d6 hit points. The languages you know either holy, nether, or elemental, and you have turn undead. So with these classes, they're kind of mixing some stuff together, which is kind of cool. Again, it talks about the different spells. There's a bunch of new spells in here as well. The role: they are the pillars of the communities, often serving in abbeys like White Peak Abbey and Whitestone Abbey. They provide healing, counsel, protection, especially in times of when dark forces threaten the peace in the world, where arcane magic is mistrusted by monks. And again, it talks about like what kind of background you're from. You choose your deity, and then example of types of monks. Are you a warrior monk? Are you a mystic sage? Are you a healing monk? So again, it's encouraged you to build into the lore of the world, combine your ancestry with your class. So that's pretty cool. I'm not going to go over everything in this, but yeah. So this is like some of the more awesome artwork in here. Again, there's going to be places like here it's empty. I believe they're going to be adding artwork in there, as well as, like I said, expanding upon everything in here. Now, the scout in this is basically a hunter thief type hybrid. So it talks about the different weapons you can have: darts, clubs, crossbows, daggers, long swords, rapiers, short bows, short swords, sling, and spear. Armor proficiency with leather and shields. 1d6 hit points. You can tracking. You can determine the number and type of creatures that have passed through an area. Foraging: you can find edible plants, hunt small game, and locate fresh water. Identify natural hazards: you're obviously able to identify plants and poisonous materials, quicksand, and other stuff like that. So basically, they are, think of your traditional ranger, but are also a bit more sneaky. So they're not going to be maybe as tough as some rangers classes you have for Shadowdark or even other games, but they're also going to have other things in the world where, again, they're a bit more like thieves. So that's pretty cool. So you could be a woodland tracker, a silent infiltrator, or a survivalist. Scouts in the Dark Forest. As a scout, your journey might take you deep into the heart of the forest, where few tend to tread. You could be uncovering plots, discovering the movements of rancored dreadbeards, pirates, before they strike, giving settlements like Light's End time to prepare, exploring ruins, protecting caravans, investigating threats. So again, it's these sort of hybrid classes, which are cool. Again, it talks about some of the talents and all they have here. A sage, again, is more of your spellcaster type. Since again everything's sort of a bit of a hybrid, they are sort of like I think a mix of like a spellcaster and like a mystic type character in this. Deep nature's mystic, arcane scholar, elemental adept. Again, these are the stuff you can do. Like I said, we're not going to go through everything in detail, but we just want to get an idea of what's going on. And then you have your bunch of different titles for your warriors, if they're lawful, chaotic, neutral. Same with the monk and all of the others, like sages and the scouts. To me, the scouts are the most interesting. I just think they're cool. I love rangers usually, and you have like a more sneaky ranger. It's kind of cool. And helps with the languages. So we go over the common languages. You have woodland, you have rodent, you have burrower, tree speech, riverway, field speech, and avian. So woodland is going to be mostly awakened creatures, which is going to be our human-like creatures. So like our player characters or the NPCs. Rodent, you're going to speak to mice, stoats, rats, basically other mice, basically. Burrower, going to be badgers, hedgehogs, rabbits. Tree speak, it's going to be squirrels, pine, martins. Riverway is going to be otters, hare. Then you have field speech is hares, avian, which is birds. And then arcane languages. So Draco is for dragons, celestial is for different gods and their servants, diabolical is for demons, devils, and their servants. Natric is going to be for elementals, and Nether is going to be beings from negative planes. So that's pretty cool. It has some new gear and equipment like it has here. So you have fiber armor, you have ironwood mail, I'm not sure how to say that, but we're going to just have a go at it. Aperum scale armor, turtle shell armor, and a buckler. Buckler is a different type of shield. It goes over into descriptions of what all these things are. You then has for weapons, you have bolas, cutlasses, nets, rapiers, slings, and sling bullets. And it has a ton of magic items here. I'm just going to read 2 or 3 of them here for give you an example. So we go for the arrow of the black fang. So it's fang, a single black feathered arrow said to be deadly against beasts. So it has a benefit of dealing 2d6 bonus damage on hit. The arrow is destroyed after hitting once. If it misses, it can be retrieved and reused. So it's a very powerful arrow. But obviously, if you only have one, you only get one shot. But if you miss, you then retrieve it. So that's pretty cool. I think there's 30 plus in here. Might be 50 plus. There's a lot of stuff in here. So we read Harebell Horn. A simple wooden horn carved with sprinting hare imagery. Benefits: once per day, blowing it grants you up to 3 so once a day, blowing it grants you and up to 3 allies plus 10 feet of movement on your next turn, or the equivalent in Shadowdark terms. It's going to be painfully negative if used indoors, but harmless. So it allows you to go a bit quicker or further. And we'll just read one more here. So the Moon Silver Flachian, a pale bastard sword believed to glow in the presence of lycanthropes. A benefit of +1 to attack and damage at night. It deals an extra 1d4 radiant damage to shapeshifters and glows in their vicinity. So it's a curse of 15%. If you use to slay an innocent, the falchion loses its glow and bonus until it is bathed in the full moonlight overnight. So say if you use this against an NPC who's just doing their job like a guard. He's not doing anything wrong, but maybe he's in the way of you and your party and you need to get there, but you can't convince him. You kill him with this, roll a d100, and if you get 15 or lower, you basically, it's just a normal sword by then, until you, like it says, or it goes out into the moonlight and gets basically recharged. So that's cool. So there's different curses on them, on some of these weapons and items, and they're not all going to necessarily take effect straight away, which is cool. So again, it lists different spells that they can take for the sages and the monks, and it has a bunch of new spells in here. As far as the spell organization in this, they're a bit all over the place. Which, it happens. So you have the monk, it's tier 3, but then you have tier 1. Ideally, you'd want all tier 1 for, say, monk, then the next tier, then the next tier, and then go on to sages in the next tier for each subsequent spell. So then it goes on to sage tier 4, but then beside it is a monk tier 1. So you know what I mean. But yeah, there's a bunch of new spells in here. I talked about the seasons and celebrations. So throughout the changing seasons, the folk of Antilio, furred and feathered alike, gather in celebration of the land's natural realms. As each season arrives, communities large and small, marking its passing with feasts that bring unity, hope, and merriment. During these gatherings, daily labour are set aside, new and old friends, you start drinking, and so on. So it goes in a bit more detail here about communal harmony. They're all going to be coming together, acts of charity. Everyone tries to be better people, essentially, and shared labour. People will help each other out, for example, preparing food and items, or maybe if someone's trying to gather materials to help them with that. And music and content, so people are going to come up with contests and ideas, which is this all cool opportunities for DMs if they want to play into that. And it talks about a bunch of major festivals, and also how time of the year works is there's 6 days in a week, and there is 90 days in a season, and they don't really. So they talk about like each season, say it's spring, it's going to be like early spring, mid-spring, late spring. So that's how that works. So major festivals, we'll just read one or two. So Merroway Tyne. So a midwinter festival or seasonal festival. When winter's chill grip tightens, folks celebrate Merroway Tyne with gifts of charity and warmth of close community. Those who have stored plentiful provisions share them freely, pleasing Lyria, goddess of heart and home, and seeking her favour to shorten Maynard's winter. Rituals. Households cast portions of their best winter supplies into ceremonial fires or onto makeshift altars. Families in remote homesteads gather together to trade stories, while larger towns hold grand feasts in abbeys, share every morsel of food they can spare. And it talks about the atmosphere, so fires crackle against the hush of the snow nights, joyous laughter, minglings. It basically just gives a description of what's going to be going on if you come across these sort of festivals. And there's a couple of these in here, which is pretty cool. It's going to add, again, more flavour and more feel to the whole world. It says here there's 6 days of the week, and they're all named differently. So Camely Day, Men's Day, Soul Day, Rendley Day, Grimm's Day, and Larry Day. Basically, each of them are associated with a different theme or idea. So Camely Day, a day for new beginnings and bold ideas. Men's Day is a day to remember the past and pray for the future. Soul Day is a day for sowing and repairing what is broken. Ren Day is a day to begin a harvest and to give to the poor. Grimm's Day is a day for funerals and endings. And Leary's Day is a day of rest. Celebrations in abbeys in the cities. White Peak Abbey, monks, Jacobin Day celebrates the brave monk who gave his life defending the abbey against a fearsome white dragon. Residents light lanterns along the abbey wall and spend the night recounting heroic tales. So again, there's lots of stuff like this which just breathes life into the world. It talks about the climate, the different seasons, regional climates within each of these as well, which is pretty cool. Again, this is adding more and more flavor to the world. Again, I've been reading this for a little bit on and off. over the last little while, and I really like what they're trying to do here. Like, it looks kind of cutesy and nice, but it's not really. Like, you do have the people, they all come together and they're like trying to help each other out, but there's still a Shadowdark darkness and grimness that's in everything. It's trying to be like what we would see as normal people, but they have the animals taking their place, and at first glance it does look cutesy, but it's not. Like, in real life, at different times of the year, no matter how hard or rough it is, people would come together in days past for celebrations. No matter how little they had, they would always offer something. So that's pretty cool. The Flora and Fauna. So it has the evolved folk and ordinary creatures. This is what we talked earlier about. So a minority of animal species experience a magical awakening following the Valarium cataclysm, ultimately becoming furried and feathered folk who dwell in towns, abbeys of today. The vast majority of animals never change, continue to inhabit the wild with their natural forms. These ordinary beasts are typically much smaller and of animal intelligence, coexisting along their awakened counterparts. So it talks about different plant life here, and what they are, what they feel like, the vegetation, different types of grounds and stuff like that. Regional highlights for different areas. They have different sort of focal points and the type of flora and fauna which inhabit them. And here's some more awesome art. It's like basically a giant treehouse, which is cool. So it talks about more and more about this sort of stuff. And then we have town and rural life. So you have the abbeys, the fortresses. They're going to be towns and rural life. So let's just read a little bit here. I don't want to spoil too much, but you can probably read some of this anyway. So in the vast wilderness of Antilia, marked by brooding forests, craggy mountains, and the tempest of tossed seas, towns, fortresses, and abbeys stand as islands of safety, fellowship, wherever perched atop a high wall or cradled in the colossal branches of a Hibernian tree. These hopes of civilization allow the common folk to briefly set aside whatever present dangers lurk outside. Again, the idea is the world is dangerous, but these are the civilized places where all the bad things are kept out. Maybe sometimes the bad things come in. You never know. Again, we have some blank room here. This is going to be some more art. Again, remember, this is not the finished book you will be getting. This is a preview, and they're adding more content, changing stuff around. This is 148 pages, and they're adding at least up to 200 pages. At least that's what I was told. So it could be 40 or 50 pages more. So yeah. I talked about the towns here. The towns are going to be vital for trade, nestled within sheltering burrows. I talked about some more areas of nettledeer or Hibernian crows, defended by modest militias of local folk. These settlements lack the might of and repel huge armies, but offer secure lodgings against the usual denizens of the dark forest. Rural life, basically, you are kind of going to be struggling a lot in the rural areas. You're probably going to have like small, very, very, very small villages. And they're going to be more disconnected from the cities and towns with less trade and stuff like that. So it talks about community bonds. While living apart from civilization, rural families still have close bonds with a handful of their neighbours. They share labour during planting and harvesting seasons, exchanging goods, fresh milk sap, or surplus food. So basically, it's kind of like we'd have in rural areas of today and of the past, where if someone comes to the door and do you have any butter or milk? If you have it, you're going to give it. Hardship and harmony. It's going to be like the winter and other times of year are going to be much tougher if you're living the rural life. But again, this makes the local people come together. Slavery. I talked about some of the slavery that's going to be in this. It's going to be done by the pirates mostly. Agriculture and food. Now, it does say that the local residents are mostly vegetarian, but some will gather wild bird eggs, fish from rivers and sea. Domesticated herds are unheard of. Instead, towns draw upon orchards of apples, pears, beans, cabbages, squashes, etc., etc. These can be then changed into different types of cheeses, and you can make dairy food as well. Mining, crafting and teaching, trading organizations, currencies. There's a lot of information in here, which is cool. It's going to give more to the field of world. So in the currencies, each area might have a different type of currency. There's no standard way of having the gold or silver and copper. Again, they use the same system, gold, silver, copper. There are going to be different markings and different symbols based on the different areas you are. Remember, we have the 3 main areas of the world. So, yeah. Clericy and abbeys. So, it's going to be basically your normal sort of stuff you might expect. Like your monk is sort of like he's your warrior as well as a type of magic user. How the abbeys are going to work. The abbeys are going to be revered for the wisdom and spiritual insights. Yeah, I'm terrible at this, aren't I? But no, seriously. So, so they're going to be like the moral and the moral and what's the word I'm trying to think of? They're basically going to be the moral compass of your society. They're going to have a lot of say in things for local communities, and even among the upper class. They also know some more ways of the world and of the gods, which gods are always going to be heeded in any kind of world. And it has several new gods here. So yeah, you have Lyria, the goddess of heart and home, symbolizing spring and represented by the otter. You've Calamion, the god of forge and war, as associated with the badger. He represents strength, crafts, and valor in battle. Menor is a god of the moon, heralding winter, symbolizing the owl. He governs wisdom and the passage of time and mysteries in the night. Sulis, the god of the sun, healing, embodying summer, represented by the eagle. Stands for virtue, restoration, and nurturing rays of the sun. Kenador, goddess of harvest, as associated with autumn and the mouse. She signifies abundance, hard work, and the reward of the earth. Grimlock, the god of death, decay, rot, associated by the underworld, and represented by a skeletal snake. Grimlock is the father of fear and the slayer of light. So it talks about the rankings in the world, the nobility, rank, and peasantry. I'll read a little bit here so you get an idea, but it's going to be kind of probably what you're used to anyway. The nobles are obviously all up their own backside. Usually, you'll find there's some nobles who are absolutely brilliant. They're going to help the local people as much as they can. You'll also find others which are much more punishing towards locals, and maybe they're going to tax them more or want more from them. So yeah, so read a little bit here. So across the rolling plains and fortified keeps of Antlo, the lords and ladies who rule over the domains vary widely in the disposition and ambition. Some, like the Badger Lord Halperd, the Bold of Lungard, devote himself to knightly ideals, training their warriors to act with honor and protect the innocent from the many threats lurking in the dark forest. Others, however, will follow a darker path, like Rancor the Dreadbeard, a feared pirate king of the storm-called sea, ruled by fear, terror alone, forcing his vermin followers to commit atrocities for plunder and power. Between these extremes exist countless other nobles, petty monarchs, and often more warlords than kings, striving to guard their own lands amid the region's danger. So again, you're not just getting, again, it looks a bit cutesy, but it's not cutesy at all. So stuff like that. A bunch of locations like the White Peak Mountains, and then it talks about factions and politics. So it's pretty interesting. Like the White Peak Abbey, it's an allied monastery of a coalition of learned monks, scribes, and archivists. They strive to preserve the history of the world and mandate tension through border settlements. Though peacefully, they are not defenseless, training militia who guard libraries and farmsteads. And then you have the Stone-Picked Miner Guilds, a loose organization of miners and prospectors who risk their lives extracting precious metals and crystals from the lower slopes. They often bargain with the abbeys for shelter and supplies, while also dealing with wandering merchants who buy their ore. Then I have talked about tensions here. So White Peak Abbey tries to remain neutral, but is caught between outside pressures from raiders of the western wastes. I hit my mic. Of the western wastes, trade demands from Edlor, and the spiritual needs of Avalon's pilgrims. So it's giving you a little more information. It gives you some NPC stuff here, adventure locations, stuff that could go on, and a plot hook. And this is going to be repeated throughout this here. Again, this is just more stuff you can then throw in as you're playing, and you're going to understand a bit more about your local area as you're in. Again, these are key points, and they're going to get a plot hook. Again, it's going to help inform as you play what this area is along with the information, so then you can create your own quests and stuff as well. But remember, if you do back this on Kickstarter, you will be getting adventure with it as well. I believe it's a level 1 starting adventure, so you'll have somewhere to pick off from the get-go. Start off from the get-go. It talks about more of the history of the world, the great awakening of the folk. In the centuries following the cataclysm, the magic steeped into the broken stones, charred soil of Antela. The persuasive essence lingered like dew in a storm, infusing beasts, plants with new potential. Creatures of the forest and field, river, and sky found themselves gifted with thought, speech, and understanding. They were the ancestors of the folk who now dwell in the abbey's towns and villages. Yeah, so again, it goes in a lot more detail of the world, and there's a bunch of new monsters in here. Like I said, I think there's 30 plus in here, and the art in this is awesome. The Dreadworm, Candleflit Moth, Giant Devourer Snail. I think this is awesome. I love the art for this one. Milgrid. Yeah, so it's awesome. And there is a ton in here. Now, I just say there is no like goblins in this world. There are orcs, but they're going to be like pig-faced orcs, essentially. You're going to be more like the traditional orcs you would think of. And then it goes into a random encounter table, and there is a lot. So you have abbey encounters, coastal caverns, taverns and inns, and it goes on like this for a good while. So that's quite a lot. Market even. So yeah, so that's 144 pages of content in this book. But remember, this is only a preview copy, and it's not representative of the final product. Again, this is given to me. There's a thing left out on the ArcaneLibrary Discord. I responded and I said I would like to have a look at it. I was going to back anyway. So they sent me a PDF of this current version, and they sent me out this physical copy. Again, there's going to be more pages. They're expecting around 200 plus. There will be an adventure as well. I think this is really cool. So I think you guys might. That's what I do on the channel. I have a look at things I either have or get, or maybe sometimes people send me stuff, and I'm like, okay, this sounds cool. I think this is good. And I share. That's basically everything I do on the channel. Sometimes you guys agree, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you check the videos out and sometimes you don't. But that's just the way of the world. So this is brilliant. Again, I'll leave the links for everything you can find. I have this on reminder on my Kickstarter for weeks now. But yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you like this one. Again, I'll leave everything in the description and the pinned comment. So let me know what you think. And thank you and goodbye.